This is the Apartment Building Investing Podcast with Michael Blank, episode 142. Hey, let's do this. Hey there, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Michael Blank. I'm really excited that you're here today, and I'm even more excited that we have 2019. Happy New Year. All right, so to kick things off here, I want to talk about how to crush it in 2019. All about goal setting. Okay, it's just going to be me today, just jamming with you guys. Really looking forward to this thing. So let's get right into the tips. Okay, I got. Let's see, how many do I have here? I got four tips to crush it in 2019. Okay, so tip number one. Here we go. Get clear on your goals. Very simple. Okay, let's move on to number two. I'm just kidding. It's really not that simple, but here's a couple things I can help you with becoming clear on your goals, because I have found that clarity really enables everything else. And if you have not done so, read this book by Gary Keller called The One Thing. It will clarify a lot of things, specifically about how to clarify your goals and how to knock them down. But here's a couple things that I gleaned from that book. The first thing it does is it helps you become really clear about the one thing. And the one thing that Keller defines is if you could achieve that one thing, if you could achieve that one thing, it would make everything else easier or even unnecessary. So think about all the things that you got to do. What is that one thing that if you could achieve would make everything easier? So for example, oh my gosh, I want to do my first deal this year. And man, I would really like to go big, but I'm having trouble raising money. Now imagine you went to your next real estate meetup, and you came in the guy, and the guy really likes you, and not in that way, okay? He's an investor, okay? And his problem is he's got too much money, he's not getting a good return, and he's paying too many taxes. So you guys hit it off, and he says, okay, you know what? Find me a deal, and I'll finance it. I said, well, that's great. I said, look, I got to deploy $1 million because I got about $20 million, and I want to deploy it $1 million at a time. And you're like, what? Right? So that one thing could be finding that one person that could finance your next deal. Like if you could do that one thing, it would make everything else easier or even unnecessary. Right? Get it? See how that works? Okay, so that's that one thing. Now, I find the one thing, while it's very clear and simple, I normally think in terms of three, because I can never narrow things down to one thing. I think that's ideal and optimal, but in my mind, it's three, but certainly no more than five. And the methodology I use over various time frames. Okay, so let's stick with the number three, somewhere in the middle. So every day, I approach every day. I say, what are the three things that I really want to accomplish today for today to be successful? And I write those down. I use Google Keep. Google Keep, if you're not using it, it's like a checklist task box. It's very, 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 very easy to use, and it's already part of Google Gmail. So Google Keep, and I put on my day what I want to accomplish today. And I can firefight and answer emails and do phone calls, but really at the end of the day, I want to get those three things done. And I do the same thing for the week. What are the three things that I really want to get done this week for this week to advance me? Do the same thing for 90 days and then also for 12 months. All right, so set those three things for multiple time frames. So that's number one on getting clear on your goals, is what are those three things on multiple time frames. And of course, your weekly goal should further your monthly goal, and your monthly goal should further your quarter goals, and so on and so forth. So I use Keep for my daily, weekly, and I also put it in my 90-day. For the 12 months, I use a spreadsheet because I do it out by quarter. Make it a little more long. And so, for example, we use the same methodology with our mentoring students. So we have a mentorship program. So if you really want to get a first deal done and you think mentoring is right for you, and it's something that you're willing to invest in, it's a fantastic program. It's really designed to get you into a deal in the first 12 months. In fact, we guarantee it as well. But what we do is a very similar thing. We have this roadmap, this blueprint, if you will, to your first deal, and it starts with what needs to be done this week, what needs to be done the next 30 days, next 90 days, and then 12 months. And that, the 12-month goal is really to have you in your first deal. But what are all the things leading up to that, right? So we use that same methodology to keep our mentoring students on track. So it's the same thing for you as well. Okay, another tip here on how to actually state your goals. I like stating those goals in the present tense, as if they've already happened, almost like an affirmation. Or future. I don't know what the exact grammatical is. Future, So give me. I'm never really that good at grammar. Okay, I'll give you an example. Within 12 months, I will have done my first unit. I will have done my first deal of 20 units or more. So I will have, or I have done, something like that. So in other words, you're stating a fact, even though it's not like that. That's how I want you to write your goals. And the other thing with the goals is they have to be measurable. They have to have a date, and they have to be measurable. You have to be able to say, did meet goal? Yes, no. It can't be like, I'm going to do my first deal. That's great. Okay, but there's no time frame and there's no measure. You can't measure that. So state it as a fact, state it for what it is, and that's how you write your goals. Okay, so get clear on your goals is tip number 1. All right, moving on. Tip number 2, make time. Okay, so what does this mean? In order to achieve, here's what the average day looks like, okay? And I get sucked into this as well. You get up and there's you check emails, and then you swipe Facebook, and by the time you're done, it's 11 o'clock. Then you're like, I don't know, I might as well just go to lunch early. So you go to lunch early, and then you get back and you talk, you chit-chat with other people, and you get a little tired, unproductive. You do some more emails. And maybe there's a phone call you have to do with a customer client, and all of a sudden, before you know it, it's 4:35, and it's time to go home. You're like, wow, what the heck did I do today? It kind of just got out of hand. And if you have a lot of these days, it seems like you're drifting. And that's what most people do, and it's because you're not being intentional about how you spend your time. And this is where the clarity comes in. But the other component of clarity is to actually schedule time for it. So Gary Keller, again, in this book, The One Thing, which I, of course, highly recommend, is that he schedules time to advance your one thing. So what I do now is I schedule, first of all, a couple tips. Number one, I schedule time Tuesdays and Thursday mornings. I have 3 to 4 hours of uninterrupted time. There's no phone calls, no emails, no nothing. And those 2 slots, I work on my 3 things for that week. And the rest of the time, I'm firefighting, I'm doing emails, I'm doing calls, all extremely important things. But that's when I'm advancing my week forward, okay? And it's not a ton of time, but it's still a lot for you to get those 3 things done that week and to get your things done in 30 days, etc. So schedule those in. The other one, to be more efficient on time management, and I like to batch things together. So I don't know if this applies to you, but if I'm doing let's say I'm doing a podcast or a video or a blog post, what I like to do is I don't like to do just one, but I want to put 4 together, because you're already in the momentum of it and the thinking. Maybe you have to set up your equipment, you have to get in the right place, you have to get in the right mindset. I remember when I was writing my book, it took me like literally 15 minutes to get into the flow. Like, oh my gosh, what did I write yesterday, the day before? Maybe I skipped a day. What was I writing? What was I thinking? And before you get in, it's 15 minutes. And you want to write, let's say, 30 minutes a day, which is a great goal, but you've already wasted 15 minutes, and now you're writing for 15 minutes, and now it's time to stop. Oh man, how unproductive is that? Versus, you know what? I'm going to write for 2 hours a week or every other day instead of doing it in little chunks. Now it still takes you 15 minutes to get into it, but now you're in the flow for an hour and 45 minutes. Holy moly. And then you'll probably fatigue. So try batching your things as well if you can. So you gotta make time. You gotta schedule blocks in your calendar, whenever that is, to accomplish the things that are on the one thing for you. The other thing that I found really helpful in regards to this stuff is a morning routine. And a book that was very helpful to me was a book called The Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod, Halelrod. The Miracle Morning, really popular book, great guy. And the reason I'm a very actionable guy. And he said, give me the 3 things I need to do. And so I've always struggled with a morning routine. I did some meditation. I just wasn't very consistent with it. And he really breaks down, hey, if you can do 30 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever, how do you break your time down? And it's a rhythm of silence, visualization, praying, meditating, journaling, reading, that kind of thing. And it's kind of a routine that you get into every morning. And I actually got up an hour early because of this book, and Hal claimed that you could program your body to basically live and thrive on less sleep than you think you need, which I thought was complete horse manure. But I tried it, and guess what? It worked. I couldn't believe it. I tested it scientifically. It took me 8.5 hours to get my sleep. And I told my body, hey, you know what? From now on, you will be fine and fully energized with 7.5 hours. And would you believe it? And I tried this. Normally, I would crash and burn by the time Friday rolls around. Anybody can survive on less sleep for a few days. But I did not crash and burn. In fact, I sustained it now for a few years now. Really, really interesting stuff. So give that a try because it really helps you clarify. Again, the clarity is so, so important. It helps you reflect on things. Hey, what worked? What didn't work? What did I like? What didn't I like? What do I really want? What I really don't want? And so this rhythm of morning routine is really, really powerful. So you got to make the time. Now, a lot of times people ask me this question, and I get this a lot when I'm talking to potential mentoring students, because I get the chance to talk with them, and I really want to know, what's going on with them, and how likely are they to succeed with whatever they want to do. Obviously, a component of that is having the time to do it, and the truth is that the vast majority, 99%, almost 100, really have full-time jobs when they come into a program, or when they buy or course or do anything like that. Full-time jobs, because they do it because they want to get out of the full-time job. So time is always a challenge, and sometimes it's more of a challenge for others than for some. But it's always a time, and I'm fascinated by this. Why does someone succeed and the other one fails? Why does someone make time and the other person does not make time? And it really comes down to priorities. Now, we're all given the same 24 hours per day. However, we all use our time differently, and it comes down to priorities. So one of the things, again, this comes from clarity, is what are your priorities in life? Well, if your priority is to quit your job in 12 months or 18 months, and if that's really a priority, guess what? You're gonna make decisions along those priorities because of the clarity you gained. And so, for example, if you're offered a promotion at work, which pays 50% more, but requires you to travel 80% time and work 50% more, great money, less time. Well, if you're really serious about quitting your job in the next 12 to 24 months, are you inclined to accept that job offer? Well, the answer should be no. You would be inclined to decline that. Yet I see this happen all the time. On the other hand, I see people who look and seek for ways to go from full-time to part-time, and they work as a consultant for their current employer because they're so serious, okay? Because they've made it such a priority. And I've also observed that when the spouse is involved, things stick more, okay? When your spouse is involved and you guys get on the same page, hey, we can't keep doing this same thing. We can't be in the same place this time next year. We have to do something different. If your spouse is on board with that, he or she's going to be very supportive of you. And it might mean things like, hey, watching less TV. It could mean potentially working less. It could potentially mean spending slightly less time with your family for a period of time. Things like that. Okay, you have to set priorities. All I'm saying is look at your priorities, and those priorities come from really your why. And now we're going towards your why, and that why really comes from clarity. Okay, so if I were to trace it backwards, time, priorities, which come from your why, which come from the clarity that you create through these quiet times. But your why is really, really important, okay? Because everything comes back to that. Everything is motivated by that why. So you gotta get very clear on why you're doing these things. And I have found that the best why is simply, you gotta burn the boats. What I mean by that is, it may just be metaphorically speaking. I find that people, for example, here's a thing it's amazing to me. Someone spends a lot of money on a coaching program, and it goes well for a couple months, and all of a sudden they take this promotion like I just talked about. I just refreshed my mind because this happened recently, and I'm like, dude, why did you just accept this promotion? You just told me 2 months ago you wanted to quit your job, and you got into this program, spent a lot of money, so obviously you must be committed, right? Well, apparently not. Apparently, that person lied to themselves and me in the process about their actual motivation. And what I found is that their current life ain't so bad. Okay, it's not so bad because they have a high-paying job. Everyone's healthy. They have a great house, a great family, a great group of friends. Hey, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Okay, but apparently this person thought they would fix it. And I'm not saying you have to have a problem in your life, but what I'm saying is you have to make your current situation so unacceptable to you that it is an unacceptable plan B. If you have an acceptable plan B, your plan A is going to be weak, because when things take longer, you have setbacks and challenges, which you will have, your fallback is always going to be plan B. And your plan A really has no chance to get out of the gates at all. So make sure that your plan B is totally unacceptable. Make it so in your mind. Say, I cannot be in this job full-time working 60 hours a week this time next year. And the reason that's unacceptable to me is because I'm going to miss my children grow up, and that is unacceptable to me. It is unacceptable to me because I can't spend time with my wife and build my relationship with her. It's unacceptable to me that I can't travel whenever I want to. That's the kind of conversation you have to have with yourself and ideally with your spouse as well. So when things get tough and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to go back to my job, that is going to be so completely unacceptable to you that it'll keep you going in plan A. All right, does that kind of make sense, guys? All right, so really spend time on your why. It is so important. Everything kind of flows from that. And from that, if your why is strong enough, you then set the priorities. And if you set those priorities, then you have no choice but to make time for those priorities, okay? It's like one of those things where, you break your leg on the way to the airport to a very important executive meeting. Well, guess what? Your top priority just a second ago was making this flight to this unbelievably important meeting. All of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, it's no longer important because now you're headed to the hospital, right? How can this be? It's because your priority shifted. So always trace your time management, how you spend your time, back to your priorities, back to your why, and back to getting clarity. Okay, does that make sense? A little bit more under making time, but this is really important. You got to make time. All right, whew. Number 2 is make time. Number 3 is take tiny action. Now, normally you talk about taking massive action, 10xing your goals, that kind of stuff. And I think this is great for bending your mind and exposing weaknesses and limitations in your beliefs. And I think that's great. The problem I have with the taking massive action is hardly anyone actually takes massive action. What I observe mostly is that people take a little bit of action every single day, and then over time it appears that they've taken massive action. But it's not like they quit their job and go 8 hours full bore doing something else. No one does that. Who does that? No one does that. So taking massive action doesn't actually work. My advice for you is to take tiny action. So here's what I mean. Don't worry about the 141 steps that get you to your first deal. Just worry about the next 3, okay? Just focus on the next 3 things, write them down, and then do those 3 things. And normally you can knock those things out in, say, a week. Everybody knows the next 3 things they should do. They should read this book, talk to this person, go to this meetup. Okay, then do those things. And then next week, write down the next 3 things that you know you do next. And just do that. And then after 2 months, you look up and you're like, holy cow, it's amazing how far I've gotten. And we do this with our mentoring students as well. We have this thing called a deal funnel where we track on a weekly basis, we track their activity that they've done, each little activity. So they see they see, number 1, the activity, and also what's really important on this step of taking tiny action is to recognize and celebrate your successes, these small wins. Okay, now I know the win is to do your first deal and then eventually quit your job. Okay, but you got to look in the small successes, the small wins. I had a conversation just recently with someone who got a bit discouraged around 2-3 months after starting with multifamily and stuff. And it takes a longer, it's a lot of work, and I don't have my first deal yet. I'm really kind of discouraged. And I said, well, what did you do? Well, I have done a bunch of stuff. I've looked at a bunch of properties. I actually went out and looked, did a site visit. I've had a handful of meetings with investors. And how many deals have you analyzed? Oh, about 25. I said, are you kidding me right now? His name was Todd. I said, yeah, Todd, are you kidding me right now? Look at all the things that you have done. You've analyzed 25 deals. You have a high degree of competency. You can talk confidently with a broker, probably better so, about underwriting deals. Your confidence is much higher. You've had a handful of investor meetings. Even if you didn't raise a dime from this, you now have a practice and your confidence level is higher. And he goes, wow, I never thought of it that way. So taking tiny action is important, but also equally important is to recognize and celebrate those small wins. All right, really, really important. So just repeat that process over and over again and track those small wins. All right, so take tiny action. So here's the result of this stuff. So those are my 3 tips to crush it in 2019. Get clear on your goals, make the time, and take tiny action. So let's go through them again. Get very clear on your goals, because you need to do that. To get clear on your goals clarifies and solidifies your why. And if you have that, you can use that to set priorities, which then leads into priority number 2, making the time for that, right? And then number 3, to keep you going on track, continue taking tiny action. What this will do is it will establish new habits that are going to be hard to break, and repetition is key And on the note of tiny action, when we're working on our mentoring students, that first 90 days, all we do is focus on the action, okay? We don't focus on the outcome at all. Take the pressure off yourself and just focus on the activity, not so much on the outcome. Another thing to consider as you're setting your goals for 2019 is to surround yourself with a support system, a support group of one way or another. And this could take a variety of different people around you. It could be your spouse. It could be a friend. And you're looking for someone who will hold you accountable and who will challenge you when you're slacking off or you're not achieving your goals. So you need an accountability partner. You need to have people around you who have done what you want to do, and maybe another group of people who want to do what you want to do. So that's kind of your peer group. If you can, a mentor is fantastic. It's a major mistake I made when I got started in the restaurant business and then subsequently lost a boatload of money in it. That was my number one mistake I made. And I see repeatedly that having mentors, and typically these are the paid variety, it's very difficult to find someone for free that will give you the kind of attention you need. But I'm looking at our own mentoring program, and it's a fairly high investment in dollars, of course, and it's not right for everybody. But I just see how much it accelerates the timeline, the success that people are having is much faster, and the scale by which they're going out is much higher, and they make a lot less mistakes. So it's a real value of mentorship. And so I want to encourage you to kind of build a support system around you to get you through this. So there it is. Get very clear. All right. Make the time and take tiny action. That's how you're going to crush 2019. There you have it. I did spend a little bit of time on our mentorship program, and it's not really, like I said, not for everybody. We don't take everybody on either. But if you want to check it out, you can schedule a free strategy session with us to explore if it's right for you, and it's at themichaelblanc.com/coaching. themichaelblanc.com/coaching. You can schedule a free strategy session and explore if that's right for you. All right. So now the other thing also is I'm trying to improve my social presence a little bit. I don't know if you noticed it, but some good, well-meaning people said, Michael, you need to be a little bit more on social, on Facebook and Instagram. Man, 6 months ago, I didn't even know what Instagram was. So I'm really trying to get better at Instagram, and I'm being on there more frequently and kind of giving you a behind-the-scenes look at what I do all day. So I want you to do the following. I want you to go to the Instagram right now. The handle is the Michael Blanc, THE Michael BLANK, and just follow me there. Because I'm going to be, I'm probably getting in there daily at this point, and we'll probably do several. Well, I've already started doing Facebook Lives as well on the Facebook page. The other thing that you may want to check out is the Apartment Investor Network. It's a closed Facebook page. You got to answer a few questions to get in, but there's several thousand people in there right now. It's also relatively new. I never had one before, and we're very active in there. There's a huge amount of engagement. So look for Apartment Investor Network and then get in on that. So the three social things to do, and then again, if you want to check out the coaching, do that at themichaelblanc.com/coaching. All right, you guys. Well, with that, I want to wish you a unbelievable 2019. It is indeed going to be the best year ever. All right, so love you guys. Thank you so much. I will catch you on the next episode. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. Now, as the next step, download this ebook right here. Okay? When you've downloaded that, make sure you also subscribe to my YouTube channel, because then you can get all of the videos that I release as soon as I release. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel right now. Click on that right now. And then also make sure that this is the next best video to watch is this one right here. So hope you enjoyed that. I'll catch you next time.